Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and international best-selling author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 79 countries. So whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here, we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing. We highlight that transformational moment that changed our lives and how we use it to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network, Tuesday through Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can join our Facebook group, Life Transformation Radio Community, and never miss an episode by subscribing wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Life Transformation Radio can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, CastBox, Himalaya app, the Google Play Music app, Pandora, and on our YouTube channel, Life Transformation Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our show wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And please, if it allows you, leave a rating and review. Let us know how we're doing. On the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, and other amazing human beings that are impacting the world around them. And my guest today does exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show during our live broadcast, call us up at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. And with that, please help me welcome to the show my guest for today, Neil Wattier. Neil, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Hey, Sean, how you doing? Good to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
I'm pumped, man. I was a guest with you, and now you get to come on this side of the channel.
Yeah, man, I love collaboration. I was excited to have you on the show, and I'm really excited to be here talking to a much bigger audience. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we are heard in over 79 countries, and we've got about 32,000 listeners every week tuning into the show and growing, and hundreds of thousands of downloads. So, it is blessed for the show to be growing, and I speak at PodFest and Outliers Podcast Festival, New Media Summit, National Publicity Summit, a lot of podcast events and media events. So it's a blessing, man, and always honored to have people like you on the show. Moreover, you and I are both Air Force Master Resilience trainers, and we're going to dig into exactly what that is later on in the show. So I'm excited to talk about that too.
Right on. You know, and the thing about coming onto your show, that's I think back on a talk that Simon Sinek did where he talked about the difference between excited and nervous, and it's all in mindset. Yep. And the whole time I was getting ready to come on your show, I just kept telling myself, this is exciting, this is exciting, this is exciting. So it helps quell the nerves, although you still get a little excited. You get that heart racing, and I can feel it. I'm really pumped to be here.
Yeah, I do that when before I go on stage. Every time I go on stage, I feel myself getting nervous. I'm like, I'm not nervous. I'm excited. Look how many people are here. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to rock this talk. It's going to be absolutely killer. So let's just do this. And so that's what I do is I get into my own mind. I'm like, I'm not nervous. I'm excited. I'm happy. It's excited energy. And I go out there and I'm excited. And so I'm doing my warm-ups, and that's what I'm doing for my warm-up is I'm exciting myself instead of being like, oh, my gosh, look how many people. Oh, my gosh.
I love it.
It
man.
works.
I love it.
It works. So the
Yeah, it
title
does.
of this episode, is Strength-Based Programs to Help You Thrive with Neil Wattier. He is a 25-year Air Force veteran. He has helped individuals and teams realize their full potential while serving as a coach, advisor, and mentor to senior military leaders, business executives, young professionals, youth and adult athletes, fitness professionals, and faith communities. His strength-based programs equip individuals and teams with practical skills to grow and thrive through stress and adversity and propel their mental performance from good to great. Neil runs a resilience coaching and development firm while serving as the United States Strategic Command Resilience Coordinator. He attended Army and Air Force Master Resilience Trainer courses and is currently pursuing his Master's of Performance Psychology. His website is Neil, N-E-I-L, Wattier, W-A-T-T-I-E-R, NeilWattier.com. The Neil Wattier podcast, which is an absolutely great podcast. I was a guest on it. He has a lot of amazing guests on that show. It's right there in the show notes. Click on that. Subscribe to his podcast wherever you listen to shows. And also, his LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram is right there in the show notes as well. You can click on those or copy and paste those into your browser and send him a friend request, letting him know that you heard his episode of Life Transformation Radio. Neil, the first question I have to ask, and I believe is the focal point and the question we should be asking ourselves every day, is why? Why do you do what you do?
Sean, I believe that everybody has amazing potential. Everybody has amazing mental strength inside of them. And my why is helping people realize their optimum mental performance. When we talk about resilience, there's a lot of things, a lot of areas. Could be emotional, mental, spiritual, social. I primarily focus on mental because there's so many things that start in your head before you'll ever see it out in the world. And I think it's very important to help people realize that resilience is not a trait. It's not something that you have or you don't. Everybody can be resilient. Everybody is resilient. Humans are resilient beings. Look at what we've been through. And I think everybody has the opportunity to improve resilience by focusing on skills. And by focusing on skills, it helps people realize that it's a real thing that they can acquire, they can develop, and they can get better at.
Got it. That's perfect. Like I have nothing to add. Amazing.
Yeah, and
absolutely amazing.
You and I having very similar backgrounds with very similar training. There's a lot of things that we talk a lot about, and my girlfriend Cindy helps keep me grounded as I'm getting ready to transition out of the military and starting my own coaching and consulting business. That there's some people out there that you use a lot of big words and you use a lot of big phrases, and sometimes some of that gets lost in the mix. So that's why in the intro that you gave me, I use a little tagline, and I think it helps clarify for a lot of people that resilience is a set of skills that help you grow and thrive through stress and adversity. And I couldn't think of another way to break it down as simple as that, because stress and adversity is really what we're focused on. Stress is the daily occurrence, both good and bad stress. And then you have the adversity that people face, not if, but when, whether that be illness, death, loss, transition, and there's a lot of good things that happen that are really big. I mean, moving, getting married, having a baby. I mean, going on vacation is stressful for a lot of people. And so having the ability to grow your resistance to stress, or your ability to manage stress and make it through significant adverse activities or events in your life, on your willingness to take a step back, take a breath, and learn the skills that are going to help you grow and thrive.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And the one thing that I want to point out is that there's like a common theme here, is that you grow from the adversity. You don't just go through it. You have to grow from that, grow from the adversity. And most people try to avoid that adversity. They try to avoid that failure. They're like, no, I don't want to fail. I don't want to do that, and I don't want to change. And they keep pushing against it. But that's where the most growth happens, is in that adversity, in that change, in those moments designed for growth. And if we just let ourselves take hold of that and walk fully into that, man, you'd be surprised at what happens.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of people talk about, when I first start my workshops or my discussions, a lot of times I like to ask people, what is their impression of resilience? And one of the things I hear a lot of is the ability to bounce back. And I understand the perspective and why they say that. However, I don't use that, because in my mind, the idea is growth. So if I face some type of adversity or I face significant stress and I learn from that, I hope to not be the same person. I want to grow and I want to develop my skills. I want to be more mentally strong. I want to be more emotionally connected in my relationships and have a better vision and use visualization so I can see where I'm going. All those things build you up, so I don't want to be the same person that I was prior to facing the adversity. So it's a little bit of wordplay, but I think it really, really matters. When you talk about mindset, the details matter, and it's really important for people to have that growth mindset so that they're always focused on what can I do. And, even the idea of coping. In the short term, you know what? If you just need to get through to Friday so that you can relax on the weekend, sometimes that's the right answer, but that can't be the long-term answer. You don't always want to be coping with stress or coping with adversity. You want to find a way to grow so that you can learn to be more resistant to or to manage better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Manage better. To do what, though? I think this is important.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's a really important question. Sometimes I like to use the analogy of fitness. When we talk about, we can talk about resilience all day long, but until it's like talking about push-ups. We can talk about push-ups all day long. We can talk about how it develops your body, how often you should do them, how many you should do them, the different positions that you can do them in. But until you actually get on your face and start pushing the ground, you're going to get no benefit from that. So it's the ability to face what you're looking at and then develop your skills. We talked about stress and adversity. I use the analogy of grass. So if you think of, if a truck drives through your front yard, imagine what the trauma that it would do to your front yard and how much work you would have to do to get that back on track. We all are going to face those major events at some point. But likewise, if I walk out my front door and I head straight to my mailbox, I'm going to walk through my front yard 1 or 2 times, maybe a week isn't going to be a big deal, but after 30 days, 40 days, 60 days, I'm going to start wearing a path. And so first of all, I teach people is awareness. You have to be aware of the patterns in your life that wear you down, whether that be your bad habits or maybe the stress that's induced upon you, like through work and relationships. So self-awareness is extremely important, because if you don't have the ability to take a step back and be self-aware, you're never going to be able to properly regulate. And that includes your influencers. If you have negative influencers or you have the good influencers that you can lean on more, you have, why do you think the way that you think? Well, it was because that's the way my dad taught me to think, or that's the way that I observe people. If you're not aware of that, you're going to continue those bad habits, or you're going to continue maybe the good habits, but you're not going to understand why, so you're not going to take the full advantage of them. So first of all, taking the ability to take a step back and be more self-aware, then you can get into self-regulation. You get into optimism, gratitude type techniques, and a lot more of the skills, the firm skills. But unless you're willing to take a step back, take a breath, and observe, and just get to know yourself, man, you're going to have a hard time implementing some of the more difficult skills that we talk about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. And I'm sure that this didn't happen overnight for you. It was probably a journey, kind of learn some things, tried it out, see if it worked, tweak back and forth. So my question for you is, what was your transformational moment that changed your life and put you on the path to what you're doing today?
I can think of a couple of them, and the one main one that I remember is I was active duty for 14 years, and then I left active duty and I went into the Air Force Reserve. And it was a very difficult decision because I didn't want to do it, but there was a lot of family dynamics that were going on. There was a lot of family changes, and making that transition, it really put me into a very difficult situation because I left without a real job. I was being a traditional reservist, so only 1 weekend a month, so it wasn't reliable income. And I put myself, and although I came back home and I was able to reunite with my family, it put us into a difficult situation. So, from one difficult situation into another, where now I had to figure it out. I was no longer active duty. I didn't have a lot of the backup systems that you have on an active duty job. I was still close to the base, so there was just a lot of difficulty going on, and I had to find my way. And one of the things that happened to me is I got hooked up with this company, and I was a manager. It was a great position. It was an amazing opportunity, and I thought I had it made. I thought I was going to roll in there and I was going to be the man. And at the 90-day mark, the general manager, my boss, called me in and he's like, "We got to let you go." He's like, "You are just not pulling your weight. You're not doing your thing." And it just rocked me because I'm like, what do you mean? I got 14 years military experience. I got all these accolades and all this stuff. And in my mind, I'm having this conversation with myself, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. And it took me a while to realize that I was my own worst enemy. I wasn't pushing outside my comfort zone. I was taken advantage of, and I was taking a lot of things for granted. And I really had to reflect and where I was going, because now I'm out of active duty. I'm not going back in again. So I just had to figure it out. And from that point forward, there was a lot of self-reflection. There was a lot of trying to figure myself out and where am I going and who am I? And I just, for the longest time, I didn't know who that was. And, that went down the path of, multiple jobs and, a couple deployments as a reservist, which was beneficial to me because it got me back in the fight, so to speak, where I was actually a productive member of what I was missing. But long term down the road, I had a failed relationship with a lot of bad blood, and there was a lot of really negative things that happened, and I really had to take a step back. Every time something happened, I had to take a step back to find out what is going on. And the greatest thing that I did was take a step back and look at myself. I didn't want to look at the exterior and say, what's going on? What's happening to me? Why is this happening to me? I hated that mentality. So I took a step back and tried to figure out, what am I doing wrong? And every time I could identify very serious things that happened, that, mistakes I made, decisions I made, people I trusted when I shouldn't have. And it really put me in the mindset to this point where now I'm getting ready to retire from the Air Force and make that transition. I feel like I'm much stronger and I'm in a much better position to make that transition. Whereas before I thought I was ready, man, I certainly wasn't.
Well, I don't really think that we are anyways. When we talk about how it'd be great to, I'm the kind of guys it's great to think about delivering a TEDx talk until it actually happens. And then you got to deliver, it's great to talk about that $340 million lottery ticket until your number's called. Then what?
There's always something on the other side that you have to prepare for.
Right, 100%. But I just don't think that we're ever ready. Because I think that everything that we think is always much different and it's always bigger. I was like, man, I'm going to launch a podcast. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a live show. So welcome to all the live listeners that are listening right now. Thank you so much for joining the show. But it's like, are we really ever ready? When we talk about marriage, we talk about kids, we talk about the adversity that we're going to go through. I could talk all day about how I want to fail. I love to fail. I love the adversity. But I love and you ended it by saying, wasn't sure I was ready. Are we going to be ready? It's like, but are we ever? It's so much different. I thought kids were going to be amazing. Forget the 3 o'clock wake up feeding. Are we ever ready for that? Our last kid almost killed my wife. Literally. My wife almost died and the baby almost died twice. So we're done having kids after that. We're done. We're never. So we have 4 kids. We're not having any more kids. We're done. Because I'm not emotionally prepared. God did not equip me with the emotions to bury a child. I just can't.
Right.
I can't do it. Right. So, I mean, are we really ready though?
Well, and we like to talk about comfort zone and pushing outside our comfort zone, and I think for a long time I thought I was, but I look back on it, and a lot of the things that I were doing, they just seem such surface level. Like I wasn't really pushing myself like I thought I was. I told myself that I was. You know, the relationship going downhill and suffering and all the fallout from that, and, you know, the bad blood and the misinformation and the rumors and all the things that go along with it. You know, I was trying to do the right thing for my kids and for my family, and I was also trying to look out for me, and, you know, all the things that I thought I was doing right. And I look back and, man, I just, you know, you talk about failure. I was making so many mistakes. I was making so many bad decisions, and not necessarily bad decisions. They just weren't the best decision for me. I wasn't pushing the comfort zone as smartly as I could have. I wasn't pushing at the right places. You know, I went and I finished my bachelor's degree. I got a degree in computer information systems because I thought I wanted to go into cybersecurity. And it was about 2 months. I was taking like my second to last course, or no, it was actually my last course. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I'm like, this was the dumbest decision ever. I'm never going to use this degree. I have no interest in this stuff. I wanted to be like, you know, either cybersecurity or a network administrator or something like that. It just seemed so interesting to me. But when I got into it, what I realized is computers piss me off. I have no idea. I have no interest in working on computers and working on networks. So, you know, I learned some interesting things from it, and it was great that I got a bachelor's degree, but it was things like that. Like, I didn't really think it through. I thought I was pushing the right areas. I thought I was pushing outside my comfort zone in the right places, but they were just ill-informed and, you know, misguided. And, you know, like I said, at least I got the bachelor's degree out of the way, and now I'm going to start working on my master's degree. But really, like, come on, like I keep thinking about, like, when I was in my 20s and all the decisions I made, and I thought I was, you know, on top of the world in my 20s. I'm like, man, you were an idiot. And in my 30s, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm making good decisions, and I'm learning from my 20s. And I look back at my 30s, and I'm like, yeah, man, you're just tripping all over the place.
Yeah, I'm sure that still happens though, right?
Oh yeah,
I did.
Daily.
I did that today.
And that's kind of where the self-awareness comes in. I'm like, you know, you just accept the fact that you're just going to be living a life tripping over your own feet, and you know what, do the best you can and make the best decisions. And you know, there was a lot of forgiveness that comes along with that too, to give myself grace for the mistakes that I've made and do the best that I can moving on, you know. And I think that, you know, and you can point the finger any number of places, but until you point that finger back at yourself and you really self-reflect and you really try to figure it out of, you know, what did I do, where did I go wrong, or what could I have done better, you're going to be constantly stuck in that cycle. So I've tried to do some really hard self-reflection and figure out, you know, with this next transition of my life is going to be a major one. What do I really want to do? Because that last transition that I had going from active duty to the reserve and the hot mess that it was for actually a long period of time, it was difficult. And I really wasn't as honest with myself as I thought it was being.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I know a lot of veterans that are getting out of the military, may have a job lined up, think that it's like, okay, I'm so sick of active duty and I'm going to get out. It's going to be glorious. And then it's not. And then it's messy. And it's tough, man. No matter how you look at it, that's tough. And we lose a lot of veterans. They say that a veteran who retires at a full career, 20-year career, has a life expectancy of about 5 years before they take their life.
Yeah, and we see, you know, not myself personally, but, you know, from working in being connected in veteran networks and trying to, you know, go back to school and being connected with student veteran organizations, you see a lot of people that struggle. But then at the same time, you see a lot of people that are really successful, you know, and we've talked a lot about those transitions, and I kind of painted a bleak picture, but, you know, the idea of constant growth and thriving through that adversity is really important to me. And the last, I would say, about 5 years, aside from, you know, a couple things, is, you know, my career has been fantastic. My personal growth has been really amazing, and I'm real big on connections. We can talk about the power of the individual, but no one is self-made, and everybody needs connections, and we all thrive in community. And one thing that I ended up hooking up as a civilian on base and doing a contractor job. And in this job, I was connecting with people. It was just part of my job, part of my nature of being a connector and a networker and somebody who likes to talk a lot. They had this new person come in, high-ranking individual who ran his own shop, and the chaplain of STRATCOM came in, and he was very interested in the job that we were doing in organizational development. And he walked in, and we had these great conversations. And I noticed every few days he was coming back in, and I'm like, wow, this guy really loves what we do. Well, what I found out later on is something about me clicked, and he really liked my approach, and he was looking for somebody to come up and work in his office. And over the next 4 or 5 days, he was coming in, and he was interviewing me with what just looked like conversations, but he was actually interviewing me for the job. And he came in, like midweek, and said, hey, I really like you. I really like your outlook and your perspective. I want you to come work for me. And I didn't really think much of it. I was like, okay, well, yeah, let me know. And about 2 days later, he came back and he's like, okay, you start Monday. And so I did. On the next week, I went up and started working in his job, and that's how I ended up getting the resilience position, resilience coordinator in his office. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing that about 2 years now, and that gave me the opportunity to go to both Air Force and Army Master Resilience Trainer courses and learn the skills, and then be in charge of the program where my number one focus is to provide people resilience skills. And that's not only the military members, it's the civilians that work in there, and it extends out to the families as well. I've worked with the Key Spouses program. I've done back to school resilience programs for children as young as junior high. And what it's been given me is a great opportunity to use my skills. And that's why I like the idea of strength-based programs, because my skill comes with being out among people, talking to people, getting to know them, finding out what their needs are, what their strengths are, and then help building them up. What are the mental, what are you really good at, and what can I help you? How can I help you get to optimizing? We talk about, like, on a spectrum. In the military, we talk a lot about suicide awareness. Last year was a really tough year for the Air Force. There was there was a lot of suicides in the Air Force last year, and we talk a lot about suicide awareness and mental health, and that's a very important conversation. At the same time, if you look at the other end of high-end mental performance, I use the analogy of sports psychology. The purpose of sports psychology is to mentally prepare athletes for physical activity or some type of activity. And so if we look on that spectrum, everybody's going to fall at different places, and every individual is going to fall at multiple places based on what area of your life you're talking about. So if we can take every dot on that line and move it just a little bit more to the right towards that optimizing, then all the people that are on the far left side that are facing significant adversity, they want that too, and they can be encouraged by that, while at the same time seeking the mental health from the professionals that they need. We can complement that. But the idea that we want to continually push people to that optimizing mental performance side of the spectrum so that everybody can feel the potential that they have inside of them.
Oh, for sure. And I was in 2014. Yeah, 2014. I went down to we did the MRT, the Master Resilience Trainer, in 2014. But prior to that, we had gone through UPenn, which was basically University of Pennsylvania had a resilience program, and the military sent people down there to learn their program, and then the Air Force kind of took it and blew it and did their own little thing to it and made it what it is. But it's gone through a couple of revisions. But teaching resilience has been absolutely incredible, and people in the seminars have stood up and go, I need this. I had a pilot one time say, my wife is about 6 or 7 months pregnant. Baby's not going to make it. We already know this. Like we don't know if it's going to last for 5 minutes, 5 seconds, whatever. We just know that the baby's not going to survive because its organs are not developing correctly, and it's just not going to survive. Like, oh my gosh, knowing that sucks. You know, we've had people like, yeah, my dad just killed himself last week. Was one of them. One guy stood up at the end of this training and says, I thought about killing myself, but I don't think I'm going to now. We're like, oh my God, like this is crazy. So
yeah, and
I
I've
mean,
had a
you
couple
never
people
know
come up to my office
reach.
and say things like that too. You know, I had a young lady come up, and you know, after some of the workshops, I encourage people to come up and give feedback, and it's not uncommon for people to call and say, hey, you know what, I got an idea, or I want to talk to you further about something. So when this young lady asked to come up in my office, I didn't really think much about it. So she stops up, and so I brought her in, and we went behind closed doors too, because I want to give her some privacy. And as soon as she sat down, she just started bawling, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I'm a talkative person. I didn't know what to say. So I just listened, and she went into the story about how she was in a workshop 2 weeks prior that I had taught, and I saved her life. She looked across the table at me. She says, you saved my life that day. And she said, I had a plan. I've got this medication. I've been taking this antidepressant, and I didn't want to take them anymore. I was just done with the pain, and I couldn't deal with it. And she couldn't even put a specific moment or something I said. She just said that she just felt like, despite the room being full of people, she says, I felt like you were talking directly to me, and you said everything that I needed to hear, and you saved my life.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I still get emotional thinking about it. I just sat there. You know, I didn't know what to say. I sat there. I had tears in my eyes. I'm crying with her, and it was amazing. I had no idea. And 2 weeks later, she came back, and she's like, I'm focused, and I've got, you know, I'm focused on my kids. I'm focused on me, and I'm going to fix this thing. And we just sat there and talked for almost an hour.
It's amazing. That's the part I love. Absolutely love it. And it's not about me, though. You know, like, it's not it's like all I did was teach a seminar. All I did was give somebody some information that is readily available on the internet for the most part. But that's the impact. And for people to say, like, well, I don't know, I don't think it's working, maybe we'll change it up, I gotta know, like, it's working. Believe me, it is working. It is working. So, it's been absolutely incredible. I ran the program at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base from 2015 to 2019, and it was literally the best 4 years, man. It was just incredible. And the people that you meet and the people that you affect, and I still meet people. They're like, "Oh, you were my MRT in our RTA class. Like you were our instructor for that, you know." And I remember, you know, what you said about this and this and this. And my big message is that you have the power to say this is not how my story ends. You have the ability to turn the page and write a new chapter. So today's the day you write your success story. This is the day. And
That's right.
I tell my story. You know, in one of the classes, I tell my story about how I tried to take my life in 2008, and I'm a suicide survivor. People are like, no way. Like, you think I'm Mr. Resilient? Dude, I tried to take my life like 10 years ago. And now look at me now. I'm teaching suicide awareness. I'm teaching resilience. I'm speaking everywhere. I have this show, Life Transformation Radio, where my hope is that I can transform someone's life through someone else's story. You have the power, and you showed it to that girl.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling, and the times that I've had to just be up and talk to people. So, you know, prior to this job, I was working as an Air Force first sergeant, and for, you know, those that don't know, it's very similar to a human resources position where you're an advisor to the commander, and your sole responsibility is to make sure that people are ready to do their job, that whatever takes their mind off the mission, you're involved in that, and you're making sure that you're helping them, whether that be discipline or helping them along in a certain area. And it was a fantastic job. It gave me great opportunity for flexibility, to grow my empathy, because I heard stories from multiple angles, and I was able to go and help come up with a proper solution rather than just, you know, dropping the hammer and giving somebody discipline. No, you know what? They still need to be a productive member of society, even in the worst cases. You know, you're kicking somebody out of the military, maybe, but they still need to be a productive member of society. So what can I do as a senior leader to help them with that transition and make sure they have a plan on the other side. And what that allowed me to do is learn how to network properly, learn how to make sure that I'm focused on the productive solution, not just a solution, but what's the most productive outcome that we're looking for. But then also it gave me an opportunity to stand up in front of crowds. And so now, I did an event recently where, somebody had me come in and give about an hour and a half presentation on goal setting. And he was expecting, anywhere from 30 to 40 people, where 75 people showed up. And so I'm in this room presenting, and to me, at this point in my career, I'm thinking, man, it's fine. I could talk to 5 people or I could talk to 500. I don't care. I absolutely love it. Not only because I've had the opportunity, but also because I'm so passionate about helping people develop their skills, because I've seen the benefit that it provides to people. I've seen people reach their potential and then try to strive for even more. And so I'm always focused on growth. I'm always focused on developing skills, because I think that everybody has the potential to continuously grow and be prepared to thrive through when they face that adversity, or to stare down the stress that they have and realize they are capable of. Maybe they just need to learn a little bit more. And there's nothing wrong with that. Admitting your ignorance is the first step to education. You have to admit that you don't know something before you're willing to go out and learn it. And by people stepping out and you and I having the skills that we can teach them, and that's what's so great, because there's a lot of people that have conversations about resilience, and then they stop right before they answer, now what? And that's where I love to start my work, is now what? So we can have conversations, but the philosophical stuff, you know what? We're going to have that over in the first 5 minutes, and I'm going to have you working. And I tell people every workshop, every discussion, everything, you're going to walk away with at least one solid skill that you can implement in your life immediately. And so since I've said that, here it is for all of your listeners. You want one solid skill that you can implement in your life. Take 5 minutes out of your day. 5 minutes every day is all it takes. I call it the gratitude challenge. In the Army, they call it hunt the good stuff. It builds optimism. It's the idea of look in the last 24 hours and find 3 good things, 3 things that you're grateful for. Doesn't matter what they are, people, experiences, opportunities, something you saw, something you did. Find 3 good things. And then ask yourself, why does that mean so much to you? What can you do to encourage more of that to happen tomorrow? Who else was involved? And just reflect on those things. And it's the idea of gratitude. You're going to search for more things. At first, it's going to be, I'm going to have to reflect. I'm going to have to think about 3 good things that happened. But by the time you get to day 20 and day 30, you're going to be scanning throughout your day, looking for those good things, because you trained your brain to look for the positive instead of the negative.
Boom. And like you said, gratitude's been linked scientifically to lowering anxiety, stress, and depression. You cannot love and hate at the same time. And that's what basically gratitude is you being thankful. And in that moment of you being thankful and being positive, you cannot be negative. Positivity and negative cannot occupy the same space. And that's why it's so incredible. Science. He said science.
That's right.
I love it, man.
But it's a skill, like we talked about with fitness. That simple skill, people overlook it and they discount it because it's so simple. But that's why it's so amazing, because it's so simple, it's so amazing, and it'll take you 5 minutes every day. But the benefits are huge.
Huge. Yep. Huge. Yep. Count 3 blessings a day. If you search social media for hashtag gratitude or hashtag counting blessings or hashtag 66-day challenge, I've done this a bunch of times. We've created 66-day challenges and gratitude challenges on social media, and it was absolutely incredible. And people have told me, like, man, I just see the world differently. Like, there's blessings everywhere. I'm like, see? What you focus on expands. And where focus goes, energy flows. If you're going to focus on the negatives, guess what you're going to see? Everything negative. So focus on the positives, and you'll see positives. The negatives are still there, but you choose to focus on the positives. Just like if you choose to look at negatives, then all you'll see is negatives. Doesn't mean that there's no positives there, but,
Well, and sometimes people get tripped up on that. We're not asking people to ignore negative things because you still need to be responsible for that. What we're talking about is realistic optimism. Be realistically optimistic that there are a lot of good things for you to be thankful for. There's a lot of good things for you to focus on and look for. And the more that you find the good things, the more good things you're going to find. And there's still responsibility for negative things. You got to be responsible for your actions. You got to be responsible for your relationships. And yeah, you're going to face adversity. But again, we've had that conversation that stress is daily and adversity is not if but when. But if you can focus on the optimism, you're going to train your brain to focus on the good things. And the negative things, the bad things, aren't going to have the effects, because even in the adversity, even during the stress, you're going to be able to look out and say, the sun came up this morning, I had a delicious breakfast. Ooh, I accidentally, hey, there's $5 I found in my pocket. That's great. You know, it's the little things. And then when you're having the great days, look for the amazing great things. But it's all about perspective and training your mind.
Absolutely. As we close the show, we always do a takeaway. What is the one takeaway that you want the audience to know and understand? If they'll listen to anything else that we talk about, what is the one takeaway that you want them to know and understand?
I want everybody to know that you have the capability and the capacity to optimize your mental performance so that you can be more mentally strong, you can be more emotionally connected, and you can be grounded in your relationships. And it's all through training. You have to practice the skills in order to get the benefit, but you have the capability and you have the capacity. If you want to learn more about the skills, talk to Sean, shoot me a message. I love teaching this stuff. If you learn and practice the skills, you will get the benefit from them, but you have to learn and you have to practice.
Absolutely. You absolutely nailed it, 100%. You know, we teach a class called Capitalizing on Strengths. There are no weaknesses. It's just things that you don't do every day. I could probably play in the NBA. I could probably play in the NHL or NFL or Major League Baseball. I probably could. And at one time, my uncle told me, and I was prepped to be a Major League ball player, but I chose drinking and alcohol and parties and everything else and military and, you know, whatever. But that was what, like, I could have done that. I was really good. And I was a semi-pro hockey player. But I'm not doing those things because I chose to do other stuff. But if I pursued it, like some people pursue gymnasts at like 5 years old and they do it their whole life, right? Like, I mean, there's unlimited possibilities. There are no weaknesses, just a list of things that you don't do every day.
Right. Yep. And people just need to focus on what are you good at, take advantage of that. I can understand, yeah, there's some things that you want to do better. Focus on the positivity. Focus on the positive, right. and build your relationships, build your tribe, build your community, because what you're not so good at, somebody else is going to be able to fill the blanks, and they're going to support you, and you're going to be able to support them. Resilience depends on community and relationships and connection.
Yep, absolutely, man. Build your board of directors. There you go, man. Right. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. Absolutely an honor, and I just wish you the best in 2020, my friend.
Man. This was great. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk about my passion. And I encourage anybody that's interested in learning more to look me up. I've got the podcast that I love doing. My guests tell real stories of resilience, and that's it. It's just what stress and adversity is out there, and what have you done to overcome. The stories that people tell are amazing, and I love it.
Yep, raw and real, man. Raw and real. So thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Like I said, I wish you the best in 2020.
All right, man. Good to talk to you.
Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest impacting the world around you. If anything has resonated with the conversation today on Life Transformation Radio with Neil Wattier or myself, please reach out to us, send us a message, and subscribe to Life Transformation Radio and to Neil's podcast as well. The link is in the show notes. And his website is Neil, Neil, Wattier, Wattier.com. you can go to his LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram and send him a friend request. I close the show by saying, live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. And I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live a great life.